All right, here we go on Chapter 2, History of Management. Basically, well, we can look at the learning outcomes. What we're looking at are the origins of management. This isn't something new, but some of it is, and we want to look at that and explore that. We're going to look at what it means to have scientific management and how that's affected management. We're probably not going to get into the other ones in this video, but we'll get into history of bureaucracy and administrative management, human relationship management, and we might get into history of operations in a third video. Anyway, let's get on with this. When we think about management and the history of management, what comes to mind? What were some of the earliest things that we really needed to think about how we manage things to get them done? Okay, so the easy thing is to move on. Here are some of the things that I came up with. When were the pyramids made? Is that like 5,000 BC? So these pyramids took a lot to put together, right? We have just an incredible number of blocks that we have to get, and we're not just going to do this haphazardly. We have a plan in place. We have people executing to that plan. We need the labor provided, whether it be slave labor or whether it be artisans, masons, that type of thing. Some people think that the pyramids, the people who worked on the pyramids, were actually teams from various cities, and they were competing to see which city could help provide the most assistance. So if you can imagine everything, and not only that, but they had to get the rocks somewhere, and so there were quarry expeditions where they actually had military to go out there and help the masons, protect them from invading tribes, and get the rock and bring it back to where they're constructing the pyramids. So management comes into play there. Without proper management, these things would not have happened. If you look at the next picture, we have a depiction of Alexander the Great. And one of the things that Alexander was trying to do was he really appreciated the Greek way of life, even though he wasn't Greek. But we call it Hellenization, where he's spreading the Greek way of life throughout the known world. So one of the things that he was doing is moving this army and conquering and making treaties and putting in Greek cities and getting Greeks to move into these new cities. Lots of planning, lots of logistics, lots of organization, lots of making sure you have good captains, you have good training, you have proper supplies. Huge management undertaking. We also have the Great Wall of China here, and we also have the Colosseum in Rome, or Colosseum. Again, huge undertakings, lots of people, lots of management. So the history of management goes way, way back. Now, what's changed? So let's go on. What's the difference between managers today and back then? One, not a lot of slave labor, right? So we actually have to find different ways to motivate people besides the whip. One of the things that we do in the United States is we help people get in debt to help them be motivated to make money to provide for them and their family and get out of debt. One of the biggest changes that happened in modern times was this idea of the Industrial Revolution. So prior to about 1910, 1900, most, like 8% of the population, were on farms. They were farmers. People will say these are unskilled laborers. No, farmers aren't unskilled laborers. They have to be carpenters, they have to be veterinarians, they have to be accountants, they have to be mechanics. Lots of different skills, but not the same type of skills that you need in a factory or in the city. So we have all these farmers, we have big families because we don't have this thing that you see at the bottom, which is mechanized farming equipment. As soon as we get mechanized farming equipment, we don't need 10 kids to help with the farm. We can do it with 2 or 3. And so we have this excess population on the farm, and they're eating food and taking up resources and they want a better life. So now we have this exodus from the rural community into the cities, and now we have people, a labor force that we can use to make money, but how do we use them effectively, right? They're going to be low paid, they're unskilled, they don't have the skill set that we need, and we're going to try to use those to replace these high paid artisans. Point in fact, or whatever you want to call it, this isn't something that just happened then and then stopped. It continues to happen. Recently, probably within 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years, big population shift happened in another country you might be familiar with, China, right? I probably should add a title. China's Industrial Revolution. So we have this mass exodus from the farming communities and moving into high manufacturing areas like Beijing and Singapore and no, it's not Singapore. Anyway, there's a lot of highly dense manufacturing cities in China, and they have this influx of rural kids from the rural community, and they're looking to make money, and they want to send money back to their families so everyone can have a better standard of living. One of the problems that they had in this movement, we had people who have grown up with their parents and their grandparents in this kind of extended family of support, and they're leaving that and going into the city, and it's exciting at first, but then they get into the daily drum of 10-hour work days and maybe even longer. And they have a problem with suicide. It's a suicide rate higher than what had been happening in the rural areas. In fact, Apple, they manufacture their iPads there. They had a big problem with, well, they outsourced it to a manufacturing group, and that group had a problem with people committing suicide, going up to the top of the building, huge building, and jumping off and dying. So what did they do to fix this problem? They put nets around the building to catch the people that were jumping off, which seems kind of funny. Anyway, so it's been a problem, and China is having to deal with this idea of, well, how do we manage these people correctly? How do we give them the standard of living that keeps them motivated and prevents them from suicide? One of the things that we did in the Industrial Revolution was develop this idea called scientific management. So we have this great Enlightenment period, and we have all these new sciences, and we have academics, and now we have this group of unskilled, or I hate using unskilled. They're skilled, but not skilled to the needs of the company. So we have these people coming in, and immigrants too. So we have farmers and immigrants coming into the big cities. How do we help them be productive and help us make more money, right? So that's one of the biggest goals. And we come through this through scientific management. Now, if you haven't watched this video, it's a good time to watch the first video on the Ford Motor Company. It should be in Canvas. There's links there with questions. Poor Schmidt, right? And I'll stop this video here and let you watch that video, and then I'll make another video.